Okay, good evening and welcome to your final week in creative presentation. So tonight we are going to talk about your final week and your final project. Let me just minimize that screen. Please text me on my phone if you're having any issues with maybe hearing me, or if something happens with the platform. Here I will type in my cell number again just to make sure you all have it as we get started. 148. It's 484-423-4148. There you go. Okay, now I'm going to minimize the screen so I can't see you if you're chatting me. All right. Okay, so we're starting out this week with a peer review. As Nancy says, there's always room to improve. So it's funny when I get these questions about, well, I'm turning in the first draft, but why is it the same thing as the final? Well, it's the same thing as the final draft because you're going to have to improve something. It's never perfect on the first draft, no matter what. When I write a blog post for a blog out there, I always need to make sure I have somebody else, proofread it for me, help me edit, tell me to add some examples somewhere. You never know. There's always something that can be improved. So you get to do a peer review, actually 3 peer reviews this week. So I want to talk to you a little bit about giving feedback. If you have completed your project, but you did not turn it in on the discussion board, even today on Wednesday, please do so. Please go ahead and upload it. Try to get a few, critiques back from your peers, because there are people that I'm sure have not finished yet with their peer reviews this week. So please just go ahead and upload it even if you haven't. And if you haven't finished the 3 peer reviews, please go ahead and do that. You have, it says on the platform you have till Thursday. I'll give you till Friday afternoon. Just get that done. Make sure that you give 3 different people feedback. And if somebody already has a lot of feedback, take a look at that. Don't just give them feedback. Go in and find somebody that doesn't have any feedback. Even if you just look at it and go, whoa, like you didn't do this right. Just go in and say, hey, so you didn't really do this right. So I suggest that you use Prezi, or I suggest that give them a solution, even if you don't want to give them full feedback because maybe their project is just a slide, or maybe their project doesn't have narration or whatever. Tell them something, say something, and give them some solutions. All right, help each other out, because you're all there together. You're going to be here at Full Sail together. You're all classmates, so you'll see each other again, and help each other out. And I want to give you some suggestions on giving feedback. First of all, put yourself in the other person's position, right? You want to create safety. So you don't want to be too critical or say things without making the person feel safe about it, right? If the person on the receiving end does not feel comfortable, your feedback can actually be unproductive, right? We resist negativity. When somebody is too critical, too negative, and doesn't give us a soft punch, instead they give us a hard direct punch, it can actually make us feel like, oh, well, you don't know what you're talking about. I don't want to listen to you. So just create an environment of safety when you say something to someone. If you aren't friends with this person, if you aren't buddies, at least incorporate some safety and civility. Don't be mean-spirited with your feedback. I've seen that a few times before in peer reviews, and I'm like, oh my goodness, now we have to have a talk. So just don't make that other person look foolish. Put yourself in their position. How would you want someone to say it to you? Don't make them feel bad about themselves, right? You want to be positive. You want to balance your negative feedback, your critical feedback, with your positive feedback. Positive language and positivity, it stimulates reward centers in the brain. So you don't need to avoid the negative feedback here. Just make sure you follow it with a suggested solution, and you also give some positive feedback, because as soon as you give positive feedback, the brain, is a lot more likely to be open to critical feedback. Right. So another thing here, be specific with your feedback. When you're ambiguous with someone, it can be interpreted many ways, right? You might say something like, well, he was kind of a jerk, right? You might think that in your head or say that to somebody and they're like, well, why, right? What does that even mean? Why do you think that person's, being a jerk, right? So just try to be very specific. Say something that they, you know, specifically did well, right? They had a good delivery style in their narration, right? Or their slides, had really nice backgrounds, or it was very consistent, or they used nice images, or they cited their sources really well, right? So say something specific that they did well, and tell them, they should continue to do that, and then find specific areas where improvement can be made. Right? So you don't want to just say, oh, you need to improve your slideshow. Well, what does that mean? What about the slideshow needs improvement? And this will not only help your fellow classmate, but it will help you. It will help you when you are doing work later on. You'll remember, oh yeah, I actually told that person they should do this. And now I should do this. Sometimes it just happens that way. You remember because you taught somebody else and you were specific with them, right? You're applying what you're learning here. You also want to be immediate, right? Feedback is most productive when it's given frequently and immediately. If you wait too long to give feedback, the recipient may have forgotten what they did, or maybe it's now being misinterpreted. So this is why I give you feedback as soon as possible in this week, because you want to make sure, okay, you just turned it in, you just did the work. Now I'm giving you very specific feedback. It's fresh in your brain, and now you're going to be able to make your changes and really think about what it is that you were thinking when you put it together, and now take my feedback, make the changes. And it's going to be a lot better when you get quick feedback from everybody. So that's why we're trying to make you guys do it by Thursday, right? But if there's a day slack on this one, it's okay. I know you guys are busy. I know you have families and you work and all of this. So just not all of you, of course, but a lot of people online, that's why you're taking online classes, because you do have a lot going on. So I'm not going to push you, this first class is, first time trying to push you into, you have to have it all done by this day. I'm a little lenient. So just make sure you get on that discussion board and get it done this week before the weekend. And finally, provide tough love. When you're on the discussion boards, you are communicating back and forth. You're having conversation, right? So you want to ask for, the other person's perspective. Ask if they understand what you expect, or what you're telling them, right? Ask them if they understand what you're saying. State that you are there to help them succeed, right? People have the habit of becoming what you encourage them to be, not what you nag them to be, from your book, right? So provide tough love, give them specifics, do critique, don't be all nice and everything. You also want to tell them what they can do to improve, but just do it in a nice way, and also provide positive feedback. So, all right, so before I move on to how to receive feedback, I'm going to open the chat box and just take a look to make sure to see if anyone has any questions or suggestions or anything to say about what I have just went over here. Let's see. Okay. Cortland, you're mentioning you tried to use iMovie, but it did not upload well on the site. You can't upload iMovie. You can't upload raw how should I say, a raw track from like iMovie into the site. It's impossible. You can't do that. You would have to convert it to an actual .mov or .mp4. Right, you're going to have to convert that, and you can do that right there within iMovie. Yeah, as Ronnie's saying right here, you can save it as a movie to your computer. Oh, Cortland, I converted it to MP4, still did not work. Okay, so if that's happening, Cortland, then you need to call FSO support. And that's what I keep telling you guys, and you're going to be told this throughout your whole program here at Full Sail. If you're having any problems with technology, If you're having any problems with the platform, please call FSO support. I can only help you a little bit with that stuff, with your computer and the platform. I'm your teacher, right? I'm not really able to get involved technologically with you too much. I mean, I can give you some troubleshooting advice or whatever, but that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to teach you the content. And FSO support is there to help you with the technology and to help you with the platform, uploading issues, things like that. And if you ever do have any issues, you talk to them, they will give you a ticket number, and that ticket number will give you an excuse, if you need to ask for an extension on late work or something, right? So please use them as a resource. Try not to contact your teachers about, hey, I'm having trouble with the platform or technology or uploading. Like, if you just bombard us, because we get that too much, especially when it's newer students, we get a bunch of that, and it kind of bombards our email and our phones, and we're like, oh my goodness, like, I can't teach them all the content. I can't get through the grading because I'm getting all of these text messages and emails and stuff about technology issues that I can't help you with, right? So that is not my area. Like I said, I can try to give you some troubleshooting, but I'm your teacher over the content, not the technology issues. So please contact FSO support, okay? Anyways, all right, let's move on. Okay, so how to receive feedback. Well, you want to cultivate a growth mindset when you're getting feedback, right? From anyone, from your teacher, from your peers. You want to focus on your ability to change and to grow, and that's why you're here in school. So see your feedback as an opportunity for improvement. You always want to be working on yourself. You can always be better. We can always be better, right? I can always be better. So you always have to have this growth mindset. Try not to take things personal, right? It's really just about what you're doing, right? Not about who you are, right? Take credit for your mistakes. It's easy to take credit for your success, right? But failure is something we don't like to admit to, instinctually, and we tend to blame it on external factors. It's like if somebody says you're great, you're gonna be like, oh, I'm great, right? That's like me, I'm great. But if somebody says you're bad, then you're like, oh wait, there's a reason out there for me being bad at this. So just, take credit for the mistakes you make because it's gonna make you better, right? You messed up something. Okay, go fix it, and now next time you won't mess up, right? So just say, okay, this is good. I'm getting good feedback here, and that's why we do this in the third week. We're like, here, you made mistakes, you're gonna make mistakes, you're learning the content. Now take that and run with it, make it the best you can, and you're gonna keep getting better every semester. So take credit for your mistakes and always focus on self-improvement, right? Be conscious of your current level of productivity and ability and just make continual changes to grow, right? That's what school's about. It's about learning, it's about growing. Learn from criticism. Negative feedback is not about you as a person, but more about your current state of your abilities, right? Or your skills, what you have learned. So learn from your criticism. In fact, as a martial artist, I grew up with my parents videotaping me, and they would videotape me at tournaments, they would videotape me in my classroom doing martial arts, and they would constantly make me watch my videos. And I would watch them, and I ended up being a national champion because I watched my videos. I didn't take it personal. I said, okay, I didn't do this right. I could have done this. I could have had better timing, right? When someone does this, I do this. So you learn from criticism. You learn from your mistakes. Use it to grow. Find lessons and inspiration in the success of others. If you look up to someone, if you look up even to a teacher, right? Or you look up to a certain speaker, or if you look up to a celebrity, whoever it might be, find their lessons, learn their story, and just apply that to your life. The growth mindset really provides you with the ability to become the best that you can be. So it's a learning opportunity. It's not a competition, And following these tips leaves you with a greater sense of free will, allowing you to reach higher levels of achievement than you ever have. So these are just a few things to kind of give you a good perspective as you move forward in your education here and as you move forward doing peer review work as well. All right. So, chapter 7 of Slidology, right? You learned about using visual elements like text and color and background. Did anyone struggle with any of this? Did anyone have any questions that I can answer about using visual elements from chapter 7? I'm going to open up the chat box and take a look to see if anyone has anything to say. Does anybody have any problems, any struggles? You can say no if you want. Any feedback would be good. Okay, Miriam says no. Okay, great. Well, Miriam's listening. Okay, well, did anyone find something? Okay, thank you, Brittany. Did anyone find chapter 7 helpful? Did anybody find anything specific that you were like, wow, you know what? This is something I'm going to apply. This is something that really resonated with me, right? Or word resonate. Thank you, Tony and Miriam. Okay, great, Brittany. It looks like it's been pretty helpful for you guys. Well, if you have anything specific that you'd like to chime in, I'm all ears. Slidology is a great book. You can, and please, you guys, save Slidology. You can always refer to that later on for when you're putting together your presentations and stuff. Okay, well, I will move on to, I think the next one I was talking about was chapter 6. Yeah. Well, I'll just kind of leave it open like this so I can see the chat box. Chapter 6. Anybody struggle with anything about arranging elements? I've been, giving you guys feedback today, so I'm about halfway through all of the presentations, the first drafts, and I would say that some of you are still having some issues with arranging your elements. There's a lot of competing elements, right? You have some visuals over here, some visuals over there. It's like, well, where do I look? Where do I look? And you're not really sure where to look, right? So you want to make your visuals, your slides, like very pointed. You want to focus, right? You might want to break down a slide with a bunch of stuff on it into 5 different slides, right? Or you could have one slide where just things appear and disappear, appear and disappear. If you're using like PowerPoint or Keynote or something, try to make things as simple as possible. And I'm giving you guys a lot of feedback on these. Make sure you read my feedback. Okay, well, I'm not getting anything on the chat box here, so I'll go ahead and move on. I just wanted to see if anybody had any questions or anything in particular. Oh, Tony, try to keep my slides simple. Use the 20, 30, or 10, 20, 30 rule, but within the 20 minutes. Okay, excellent, Tony. Yeah, and Tony, we were having some issues with your slides earlier, so I'm going to take a look at those tonight. I'm going to try to finish up the grading this evening, so all of you will have it by Thursday, so that you can get started with your work. Hopefully, I won't fall asleep in the middle of all of it tonight. I've been working on them all day. All right, let me get back over here to our slideshow for a few minutes. Okay, we're moving on to articulation. Enunciating consonants and vowels, right? Super important in presentation work. Speaking clearly is crucial for any presenter. The consonants K and G have different sounds but similar mouth movement to produce each sound, ka and ga, okay? And as do T and D, ta and da, and P and B, pa and ba. These pairs are easily confused if are not articulated clearly. So before you start a presentation, it's good to do a little bit of exercise with your mouth, right? You can practice tongue twisters before you rehearse and before you go on stage or present. Here's some for you. Juan Juan was a racehorse. Tutu was 1-2. When Juan Juan won one race, Tutu won 1-2. Everybody, I have you on mute, so you can go ahead and practice that for a moment. All right, here's another one for you. A flea and a fly and a flute were imprisoned. Oh, what could they do? Said the flea, let us fly. Said the fly, let us flee. So they flew through a flaw in the flute. You see how I'm using vocal dynamics as I do that? That's what I want you to practice with. When you're practicing warming up before your presentation, rehearsing a little bit, doing tongue twisters or anything you might be doing, if you're a singer, you probably know how to do some really cool warm-ups, right? Make sure that you are using your vocal dynamics. You're going up and down with your voice, right? Being conversational. Try not to say it in monotone. So make sure, again, you do some warm-ups before you get out there and present because it helps you with your articulation. Whenever I am recording a video for one of my lectures or something, because for my other classes where I create content, I create video lectures. And sometimes these are like an hour long, right? Now, when I do this, I never just start cold, right? And I'm going to talk to you about that here in a few minutes. I always make sure I rehearse first. Okay, clarity. Be specific. When you're presenting, right, you don't want to be abstract, right? You want to be concrete with your language, right? You want to be tangible with your language. You want to be able to see what people are saying. So instead of saying something vague or abstract like being friendly, what does being friendly even mean? Right? You have to interpret that. You have to try to go, okay, being friendly, are they using their voice? What are they doing? Instead, if you want to put a visual in somebody's head and you want to be specific and concrete, instead of saying being friendly, you would say, he was smiling. Instead of saying he was being friendly, say, he was smiling. Right away, we all know what you mean. He was being friendly, right? So try to be concrete with your language. Another thing I want to mention, we have gotten away from using long sentences, especially in speaking. It's better to use short, simple sentences with frequent interruptions. Right? So you're using short sentences, you're giving directions, you're explaining something, and then you come into your whole presentation with examples, right? Frequent interruptions. So it'd be examples, stories. So definitely be a little shorter with your sentences than if you were to write a paper. So when you script something out, for example, right, you're scripting it out for your video. You don't want to have long sentences like you're writing a paper. You want to go in, you want to read it out loud after you script it, and then you want to start chopping down your sentences. So they're simple and they're very direct and they're very concrete. Okay. So you might even want to put a period sometimes where you wouldn't have if you were writing this out as an actual paper. So again, use short, simple sentences and also support your claims. So for instance, with this whole branding thing that you're doing, this presentation for my class, if you say, I will be a great employee for your company, tell us why. Explain what you mean by that. Support your claim. You're claiming to be that you would be a great employee for my company. Why? Provide some examples here. Give me fuller explanations. Tell me what skills you're going to bring to the table. What's going to set you apart? So just support your claims, be specific, provide examples. Okay? I'm going to open up the chat box, see if anybody has any questions or thoughts. Tony, Anchorman, that's cute. Okay, be appropriate but strong with your language. Here's some pointers for you. First of all, when you're speaking, right, when you're presenting, don't use past tense in your presentation work. For example, instead of saying, what I wanted to talk to you about today, right, that's past tense. This is not strong. Say something like, in my opinion, or I think, or today I'm going to tell you. Be direct. And don't use any disclaimers. Don't disqualify yourself. Don't apologize for if you mess up. Don't correct yourself or undercut yourself. You don't want people to feel like you're second guessing, because when you do, people stop listening. Be direct, be strong, and use present tense language. Another tip here, don't use tags. You notice when I'm speaking to you guys, I don't rehearse this really. I mean, I run through, I prep, I make some notes from the book and all of that stuff. But this isn't a regular presentation, right? This is a class. I wish I could hear you guys talking to me like my campus class, but I have to keep the chat box because of the background noise, unfortunately. But this is a class. Teaching style is very different. I told you guys this on the first day. Teaching style is not public speaking. Okay, so you'll notice I do a lot of the errors that I am warning all of you guys about because I am not doing a formal rehearsed presentation. So you'll hear me do things like or like, or right? You want to be careful when you're doing a formal presentation, like a pitch, a business presentation, right? A formal public speaking event, right? Anything you're doing that you had rehearsed and, this is a formal presentation, don't use what we call tags or fillers. A tag is like when you tag a word onto the end of a sentence. Like you might tag, or you might tag, right? Got it? It weakens your point. End your statement, don't tag it. Don't end it with right. I'm doing it. You probably notice I'm doing it. I do tag a lot, and females actually tag more than males typically. So again, fillers like and make sure you rehearse, have a script in front of you. It will help you to be a stronger presenter. Another fun tip here, be inclusive with your audience. Make your audience feel connected to you by using personal pronouns like we instead of I. Instead of saying, I am a gamer, right? We as gamers, right? Now you're including your audience with you and they feel more connected to you and they're going to listen to you more because you just included them in that sentence. So if you can ever use an inclusive pronoun, a pronoun like we in your statements or our, in your statements in your presentation when you're talking to your audience, try to do that. You don't want to go overboard, but if you can use that, if it sounds right, if it works, do it. Because that is a great way to connect with your audience. It gets their attention. Another pointer, don't marginalize people with generalizing statements, such as, this is a guy book, or everybody knows this, right? Because now people are feeling like, you know what, I don't know that, or my friend doesn't really know that, or, well, I like that book, but I'm not a guy. You don't want people to ever question what you say, so be careful not to say everyone or, only females like this or males or this age group. Just be careful not to generalize with your statements. Think about, hey, what about those other people that might feel like they're a part of this, or they might not feel like they're a part of this. So just be careful not to marginalize people when you're speaking. Just a couple quick little pointers to make you a stronger presenter, with your language and everything. Use credibility enhancing language when referring to outside resources. So, for example, instead of saying, "It's my opinion," you could find a source out there to back up what your opinion is, and then say, 10 years of research shows, right? So that is, it really gives more impact. It makes it a stronger presentation when you have an outside source, especially a credible outside source. Like, you might want to say something like, Billboard, right? Billboard reported last year that, and that gets your attention. It makes you feel like, wow, okay, hey, Billboard said that, therefore, they're a credible news resource. And I'll also just use active voice rather than passive voice. For instance, let's see, Dave shoved Joe, rather than saying passively, Joe was shoved by Dave, right? That's not as impactful as saying Dave shoved Joe, right? Or Dave looked at Joe, rather than Joe was looked at by Dave, right? You can see the difference. It's just very passive to say it that other way. Try to use very active voice, very direct language. That's all I'm trying to say here. All right, moving on. Rehearse with your script. I could tell many of you had scripts. That's wonderful. You typed it out, you wrote it out, whatever you did. Many of you, I could tell you had some scripts. Excellent. Don't read it cold. Make sure that you rehearse with your script before you press record. So in this course, you are recording yourself, so you do need that script. This will help you get rid of vocal fillers, right? If I had a script in front of me, I would not have so many vocal fillers with you guys. I would not be saying and because I would have been able to rehearse and I would have it in front of me, right? So make sure that if you use pause, also, I can tell if you don't have a script usually because you'll pause a lot because you're thinking, right? So make sure that when you do pause, it has a meaning behind it, right? Your pause needs meaning. It's there for impact, or when you need to digest something with meaning or depth to it, right? Somebody says something super like meaningful or important, or they really want to get it through your head. So after they say it, they pause, right? You don't want to just pause, pause, talk, pause. You don't want to just be pausing for no reason. You want to use it to provide emphasis, right? Another thing I want to mention is that there are 3 types of audience out there that could be watching your presentation. There are 3 main types. I'd like to narrow them down to. You always want to consider the type of audience you're presenting to. And these are the 3 types. You have the passerbys. Maybe you have a website, or maybe you're a band or an artist or a celebrity, right? Or a news resource, a blogger. People just kind of show up and they don't know who you are. Maybe they come across your YouTube video or something, right? They don't really know why they're there. So with a passerby, you need to make major impact. You need to be like quick, exciting, right? We're not dealing with passerbys in this presentation, right? How about the captives, the captive audience, right? All of their managers made them go see you, listen to you. Well, you have to make it really interesting because they don't want to be there. So you have to really play into the audience and make it just fun and interesting for them and connect with them on a really deep level. Just pull them in, right? Tell them some fun stories, make it connected to them. Now, what you're dealing with in your presentation about your personal brand are what we call the volunteers. With the volunteers, you need a greater depth of subject, right? And this is what you're focusing on here, is providing depth. And that's why I keep telling you guys, Tell us about your skills that you're going to be learning, and provide examples. That's huge. Tell us, explain to us, and then provide examples. Give us specific information. We want the specifics because we are volunteers. We're here to learn about you and why you would be the best fit for maybe our organization or our company, or maybe I'll want to hire you eventually. So I want to listen to you. So again, you need depth here because you're focusing on your personal brand. This is your brand is how you're perceived by others, both personally and professionally. So the way that you speak, your body language, the way you present yourself, it's all branding. Think about a band like AC/DC, right? Or maybe an artist, I don't know, like Miley Cyrus, right? They're consistent. They're consistent in their brand, right? You know what you're going to get. You know what you're going to get when you go to one of their shows, right? Britney Spears, AC/DC, Bruno Mars, Marilyn Manson, whatever it might be. You know what their message is. You know what their music's about. You know how their appearance is. You know what their mission is in life a lot of times. You know what their style is. You know what to expect. You want to be consistent in your personal branding. I should probably go back over and see if anybody has any questions right now. So I'm going to click on this and go back over to the chat box. Nope, still have the Anchorman thing up there. It's the last one. Okay. All right, so how to create a personal brand process. First, discover who you are, right? First step. What do you want to do in life? What are your strengths? What are your passions? What are your goals? Why are you here? And I even told some of you that so far in the feedback I've been giving. I'm like, okay, I got it at the end, but at the beginning of your presentation, I wasn't sure why I was listening. Wasn't sure why you were here, right? You got to really make it clear at the beginning of your branding process, the beginning of your presentation, who are you? Why are you here? You have to figure out, what's the best way to let me know why you're here. Right, the second step to the branding process is to create your brand, right? So the work that you produce should be representative of the message and perception you would like of yourself. So you're going to be here at Wholesale creating your personal brand. And I want you to really get into thinking about what that might be as you put together this presentation. How are you going to create your personal style, your personal brand, who you are as a professional, and put that into your presentation? And that brings us to communicate. Become your own PR person as you're putting together your brand. Learn how to communicate it effectively. And finally, maintain. Right, your brand must grow and evolve as you do. So maintain your brand, be consistent. You don't want to get into maybe I'm going to be a music producer and I'm also going to be an artist manager and I'm also going to be a music distributor and a manufacturer. Okay, so which one are you? Your brand should be one thing and it should be maintained. Whenever you try to be everything to everyone, it never works out. Right, so just know who you are, really think about that. If you ever have questions about maybe figuring out what you want to do, I would love to talk to you because I love helping out people with that kind of thing. You know more than anyone what you want to be and what you want to do. You just have to sometimes unlock it from that inner unconscious brain. Anyways, be transparent. Right, so you want to be honest. Don't be Enron, as they were saying in the book. Give the audience your authentic you. and not what you think they are expecting to see. Right? So communicate your humanness, be vulnerable, show who you are, use self-disclosure, right? Use personal stories. That really connects with people in a very human way. Be open, be honest, right? There are boundaries, but you want to be open and honest as much as possible so that then you can communicate and be likable in a presentation. Be unique. Don't hide your differences from the world. Don't try to fit in better. Be okay with being the only person in the room with your point of view. In business, we call this the unique selling point. USP, the unique selling point. Why would I want to go with you instead of this guy over here? What makes you unique as a person, as a company, right? You need to know what is it about you that makes you unique. And what I noticed in some of your presentations was that you weren't really selling me on that. I wasn't sure why you were going to be different from anyone else. So I know you're kind of just starting out and you're not even really quite sure probably what you're going to do at the end. But create your own ideals, create your own ideas, and use your creativity and just jump in there. And as you jump in deep, it's going to really help you figure that out as you move forward. So try to be unique in both presentation and your brand. What's going on over here? I'm hearing noise. Everybody still there? Everybody okay? Somebody say something. Okay, thanks, Ronnie. Yep, okay, thanks, Tony. Awesome, thanks, Elizabeth. All right, I'm gonna go back over here. And final point on be transparent is don't compromise. Speak confidently about what you really believe in and don't back down here. Be that kid in the emperor's new clothes and have the intestinal fortitude to state what is really happening. Call it like it is. Right? Be yourself and be confident in who you are. That will make you an outstanding presenter, an outstanding communicator, and a stronger leader all around. So, what is your brand? So again, brands can be, well maintained if they're both clearly defined and consistently deliver their promise. We start our unique brand storytelling from a place of promise, brand promise. Right? We know that Apple, high quality products, so the Apple sign there. We know that FedEx delivers fast and convenient. Right? We have McDonald's. I think that's Hyundai and not Honda right there. Full Sail. Is that the Gucci symbol? I'm not even really sure. Anyways, just know yourself, know your brand, and as you present yourself, it's going to be authentic. It's really going to keep people's attention. It's going to provide more engagement and connection. Don't be afraid to set yourself apart. Changing the world is hard. And here is a wonderful little quote from chapter 9 from Nancy. Says, if you say, I have an idea for something, what you really mean is, I want to change the world in some way. So we love to create, right? And creation starts with an idea. So what would you like to change? And why? Think about that as you build your personal brand, as you become the professional that you want to be. What would you like to change in the world? And why do you want to change it? What are your ideas? And if that's something that you're already focusing on, something that you feel is even a possibility that you would like to jump into, and you know what it is at this point, hey, throw it in your presentation. I'd love to hear about it. Since society doesn't reward rejects, but it does reward those who have the tenacity to keep going after being rejected. So don't give up. Don't ever give up. You've made it this far in the class. And if this wonderful person right here had given up, life would probably be very different today. Right? If Alice Paul had given up, women might not have been granted the right to vote in 1920. Despite several setbacks, she created the National Women's Party in 1916, and she continued to speak out against inequality and spent time in a women's prison in an attempt to make change and have her message heard. So well-behaved women seldom make history. This right here, I think this is a really impactful slide. You have a very outstanding quote, and over here you have a picture. And that's a really great way to communicate with a slide. Right, so stay passionate about whatever your ideas are. And as you move forward in school and everything, you're going to come up with a lot of other ideas. Keep the passion going. Really just don't give up. And what it comes down to is, what would you risk your reputation for? Anybody out there want to? Okay, great. Tony, be a great actor. Okay, tell us more about that, Tony. Are you speaking of being a good performer, good in your role? Or are you speaking of you want to be an actor? Because, yeah, as you move forward with your brand, your role is a part of you, but it is a role. So you do have to act in it, right? Yes. Be an actor in order to present well. Absolutely. You are a performer when you present. So take on the role of the performer. Absolutely. Thank you, Tony. What about you guys, though? What would you risk your reputation for? As you create your personal brand, as you move forward with your passion and you figure out exactly what you want to do, or maybe you already know, what would you risk your reputation for? Anyone? Okay, being heard. Tony says being heard. Brittany, music that means something. Absolutely. And that passion is really going to set you apart. It's going to make you succeed, right? Music that has meaning behind it. So this is something that is a part of you, a part of your personal brand. And keep your eye on it. Keep your focus on it as you move forward. Keep that with you as you move forward, as you move into your career. It's going to help provide a background, a backbone for you, a foundation. Okay, not a lot of speakers today, so I'm going to go back over here to the presentation. As Nancy says, passion for your idea should drive you to invest in its communication. You can transform the world. Every day, people are helping to change the world. Many people make it a better place. There are still others that are not doing so, but many of us out there are always trying to work to make the world a better place, and we do. And there'll come a point in your life when making an idea clear will significantly change who you become and the legacy that you leave behind. And ideas can be simple or they can unlock mysteries. If they aren't communicated well, they will lose value and merit. Communication is essential in life, in business, right, in your career. The value you place in your idea should reflect the amount of care in communicating it. Great presenters are created through hundreds of hours of intense dedication. There is disingenuous noise in our culture. But when ideas are presented with sincerity and passion, they stand out. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to stand out. So finally, if you can communicate an idea well, you have within you the power to change the world. So hopefully my tips today and the books that we have given you this semester are going to help you become a better communicator, and hopefully you apply what we're teaching you. And this week is so critical in getting all of that feedback from your peers and from me, your instructor, using that to make your presentation spectacular next week. And as you use what you learned in this class, as you move forward in both school and in your career, you are going to become a better and better presenter, right? A better communicator. Save your notes. Hopefully you take notes, or maybe you want to, watch this recorded archive again and take some notes. Use my tips. If you have any questions, I'd love to hear from you guys. But go change your world. That's what this is about. Create your personal brand. Take your ideas and make them happen. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. And we are at the end of our formal lecture. What questions can I answer for you? All right, so Tony says, I agree that you should effectively communicate your ideas in order for others to understand your passion. Absolutely. Thank you, Tony. And he says, I have a new outlook about presenting to others. Awesome. Awesome. That is my whole point in teaching this course, is to make sure you guys are able to go out there and apply some real world stuff into your career, into your passion, into your creativity, and really be able to communicate more effectively. Oh, thank you, Miriam. Miriam says, thank you for tonight's lesson. It was a great class. Thank you so much, Miriam. If you don't have further questions and you are ready to jump out there into your final project, go for it. I've only got through half of them, like I said. I'll be finishing those up tonight. Y'all have a wonderful evening. And if you'd like to stick around, you want to talk to me a little bit, you want to ask some questions, please do so. And I'll even take you guys off mute if there's only, 1, 2, or 3 of you left. I'm going to leave it open for a little while and just see if anybody wants to hang out. Night, Miriam. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to turn the recording off. No questions, it looks.